I call this meeting of the Sweetwater County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees to order. If you would all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First of all, I'd like to introduce J.C. Dufford, who is a sophomore at Farson Eden High School, and welcome her to the board this month. So if you feel like you want to add anything, you have a microphone, so please join us, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a new one. At Mr. Wright's suggestion, last month we adopted what we're calling an education corner. And so it's going to be a discussion about a 5-minute informational piece about different things that are happening in the districts, maybe different terms or something like that we can clarify for everyone concerned. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wright.
And Chair Jellicoe, thank you. So I just wanted to make mention that we received a lot of feedback from the Upbeat surveys, from the strategic plan feedbacks, the various surveys that have gone out, that there's a lot of educational jargon being used that maybe everybody doesn't understand or use correctly. Some words are interchangeable, others are not. And so we want to do just some bite-sized snippets to help educate everybody so that we can be more progressive and more of a tight-knit community. And we're just going to make these really short, really brief to try to help. So if you guys have things you want clarification on, please reach out to us and we'll just spend a brief minute at one of the board meetings to talk about it. But for example, tonight, Jody's going to talk to us about competency-based grading versus standards-based grading. A lot of times people confuse the two. In the future, we might talk about accountability and what does it mean to be exceeding expectations versus meeting them or partially meeting them or not meeting them. Because I think we have a great district here and I think we're doing a lot of good things. But as a community, if we see things like a school not meeting expectations, that might give people a negative outlook. And so, but what does that really mean? Do you know? And so we want to spend just a quick minute each month, 5 minutes, to try to help educate. And if you guys have questions, reach out. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to do this, Mr. Wright and trustees, Chair Jellicoe, Superintendent McGovern. Tonight, they asked me to talk about the difference between standards-based grading and competency-based, which you saw in the strategic plan. Many of you offered feedback on that, thinking that that meant that everyone was going to standards-based grading. So let's talk about that. Standards-based grading right now in this district is a kindergarten through 6th grade initiative where the students are graded based on the standards that they are learning. Now, don't forget that standards are what students should know and learn in each grade level. And so we want them to progress and be proficient in their standards for their grade level before they move to the next grade level. And that's why using that as a grading and reporting term in kindergarten through 6th grade helps teachers really stay on task. I mean, helps parents really stay, involved to know that they are on task in their learning. And so I think that this district has been doing standards-based grading for a number of years, 10 maybe. Someone might know longer. I'm not sure. And so the state, though, last month I talked a little bit about the state's initiative for the governor's ride initiative that's come out. And he has talked about competency-based personalized learning in that initiative. And that is competency-based is not standards-based. Competency-based learning is where students use what they know and what they've learned, and it may involve multiple content areas, it may involve multiple activities, and so they use that to kind of turn this into future learning for other activities. And so what the state is talking about with their competency-based personalized learning, we're going to take the direction from the state on that. We will follow their directions, but what they're talking about coming out with is reducing seat time Seat time is the number of minutes required for students to earn credit based on what their class is worth. And so competency-based learning could change their required seat time in class. It also could give us various options for pathways for learning. So you might not just be assessed in one way, you might have another way to prove that you've learned something. So that's the difference between standards-based and competency-based. Did I make that clear, Mr. Wright?
Yeah, I think so. So basically, standard-based grading is your 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s that are handed out at K-6 levels.
Mhm.
3s being like meeting expectations, 4s being performing above grade level, right? And
Yes.
so on from there. And competency-based, there's a number of metrics that we've yet to see that are going to continue to come out, but that
Right.
are going to be based off of things like seat time, nothing about a 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Right.
It's going to be other metrics that are used to judge student competency.
Right. And we really haven't had any guidance yet on that from the state.
Thanks, Jim.
Mhm.
Ms. Garner,
Yes.
just to clarify, so with the competency-based grading,
Mhm.
would that mean that students could test out potentially from certain content areas if they already understood it and met it and wouldn't have to put in the seat time as well?
Right. We don't know. That's really new to the state of Wyoming, new really nationwide. And so we're waiting to hear what that might look like.
Thank you.
But we did put that on the strategic plan because it is the direction that the governor has said that we're going. The state is saying, our superintendent of public instruction partnered with the governor and the college, University of Wyoming, to move in this direction of this RIDE initiative. So we really don't know what it's all going to entail yet, but we're waiting and watching. So hope that clears that up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Item 2D is an addendum item. I'm sure all of you have been watching the newspaper, watching Facebook. We have the funding now in the budget for the 24-25 biennium for a replacement Rock Springs High School. So we're going to address that a little bit tonight because we think that that's probably on a lot of your minds. So I'm going to proceed with Superintendent McGovern, if you'd like to start that off. Mr. Salaroli as well.
Thank you, Chair Jellicoe and members of our community. Dan Celaroli and I have spent lots of time down in Cheyenne advocating on behalf of Sweetwater Number 1 and really our need for a new high school. A couple of logistics about the new high school. It was approved by the legislature for design, construction, demolition and disposition of the current high school up on James Drive. So the funding is allocated for that, which is very exciting. We have been working on that as a community. It's a community effort, and that has been in the works for a number of years. It started back in 2006 when at that time Superintendent Grube worked on securing the land for multiple schools on one site. And so this project really began back in 2006 and it's continued up until now, and then we'll move that forward and into the future. Dan will talk about that just a little bit. But some basic logistics about the school. It will be built onto the current satellite high school, which is over by, as you know, Sage and Pilot Butte. There is plenty of acres over there. There is a total of 66 acres on that site. So we have room for a full replacement that will build onto the satellite school. A couple of things in the short term, and then we can talk about what comes from the state in a replacement school, what does not come from the state. So Mr. Celaroli and I will head back down to Cheyenne at the end of this month on the 27th and 28th, and we will go in front of the School Facilities Commission. And we will again present our need for them. And they will be very helpful for us to determine the most cost-effective remedy for the school, which would be the replacement school that we need. But lots of steps to follow through. The district has always followed the process for a replacement school. We have advocated for, I know, 9 years. And then this last year, year number 10, we actually followed the emergency rules for a replacement school. So a total of 10 years for that. It's really been in the works, but a new high school would be a gift for students to come year after year and our community. A couple of things that we are going to be working on short term is we'd like to have a meeting with our Rock Springs High School staff. Those are the people that live and breathe in the building, and we need to hear from them. What would they like to see from a new school? What's really important to them? What's near and dear? And then also most likely in April, we'd like to have some community meetings where we could listen to ideas from anyone in the community, what's on their mind, and then also information sessions so that they can come in and just hear about what would that process be, what's the timeline for that, how does all of that work. So we know we're up against spring break and we have parent-teacher conferences that are coming soon, but that is the plan. So short-term visiting with the staff and the kids up at the school, and then also community meetings to share what is the progress of that? When would we get design finished? And I know Dan will talk about that. When would we get a shovel in the ground to start construction? One common question that we're asked a lot is what would happen to the current Rock Springs High School when that school comes online, when it's built and ready to go. And I think at this point, it really is premature for us to say exactly what would happen to that current building. There's extensive repairs that, which is our reasons for advocating for a new high school. So we need to be very careful until some of the engineering assessments come through and what they determined for what the future state of Rock Springs High School could be. So a little bit premature for that. We know our district has always worked on keeping the square footage that Mr. Celeroli has to do major maintenance on. It's really important to keep that doable for us, but we also know that we don't want to get down there too far about what the plans are going to be until we have all the information to make the best kind of decision that we need to. Couple of things about, Dan, maybe I'll shift over to you about what comes with the school and what doesn't come with the school.
Sure. Basically, they build you a school. The school includes the auditorium, and it's an auditorium sized on your student population. Student population is calculated once they have the planning in 5 years beyond the completion date. So if they see a trend of the student capacity or issues going up to say, we're at 1,500 now, just say if they say 1,700, they will build an auditorium based on the capacity of 1,700. Okay, I know it's a big, that was when we first started this, a lot of people, oh, we're not going to get an auditorium. You get an auditorium, that's actually in the main designs. You get a gym, you get a competitive gym. You get a weight room. You don't get a collegiate style weight room. Again, everything is based on your student population 5 years beyond the projected opening date. You get a high school with all the amenities. If you want something extra, swimming pool, they don't support swimming pools, so we have to pay for it, through other sources. Tennis courts, even though we have tennis throughout the state of Wyoming, as competitive high school sports, it's not really recognized by the state of Wyoming as an active sport. So you have to come up with the funds for that. You get a football field. The football field may not be turf, but you get the money that they would give you for a grass field plus a standard track, which in this case would be, I think, 8 lanes. And then whatever the difference is, your community has to come up, or somebody has to come up with the difference. for turf field. This community has been blessed. They've always come up with the difference. That's how we end up with 2 turf fields. So possibly we have another turf field. You get a stadium, bleachers, if you want concession stands, things like that. Sometimes that is an extra, depends on the square footage. They allow you so much square footage, beyond that you have to pay. So overall, I think people are going to be happy. When we talked about the size of the building, remember we have roughly 43, just under 44,000 square feet existing at the satellite school. So I was really kind of happy to hear that the numbers that they were looking at are anywhere from 240 to 260,000 square feet for a building based on projections. Okay, if we do have a boom, the mines open up, it may even be bigger. But those are the numbers right now that I have heard in meetings with the school facilities. So it's a pretty big school, not as big as what we have, but when you look at what we have, it's really not the best use of space. When it comes to shops, I know shops, CTE areas is real, a big concern. The state has guidelines. They put those guidelines forth, for the architects to follow, but they don't really tell you how to spend your square footage. If they give you 240,000 square feet, that's for us to decide how we want to use it. They don't come in and they give you a basic guideline for a classroom. Just say if a classroom, standard classroom for high school is 800 square feet, because each student has to have so much square feet per student. If you want a larger classroom, which this district has done in the past, you look at some of the elementary schools, the 4, 5, 6 schools that have wooden gyms. This district at that time decided, hey, we want to build our own gym. So they built the gym, then they took that square footage for the gym, which was like almost 10,000 square feet, and they added it to the classrooms. They don't care if you do stuff like that. So, I know a lot of people are going to get nervous about, hey, everybody likes to have a big classroom, whatever. It's going to come down to compromise. Back in the old days, they used to have what they call charrettes. Some of you that have been around for a while remember doing charrettes. I used to hate the charrettes because they used to fly some guy in from back in Boston. He would come down here. He'd get everybody riled up onto what they were hoping to get, realizing, and this would be my 9th school, that they're going to get maybe 1% to 2% of what their dreams were. But if we do like what Mrs. McGovern is saying, get the community together, we can do our own charrette and come up with a solution that everybody's happy with the square footage. But basically, that's what you get. The process now, like Mrs. McGovern said, we go to the School Facilities Commission at the end of this month to move forward on the emergency, what we call 3.8. That'll drive out a Mercer. Once the Mercer comes through, one of the other questions that we have is we actually have an architect that we use to design the 167,000 square foot building, of which we got 44,000 square feet. Can we continue the contract with that architect, or do we have to go out for another architect? I would really prefer to stick with the architect group that we have because of timing. It just makes sense. They've already designed 52% of the building just to carry on their contract, but that's going to be a call that the state has to make. But again, if we have to go out for an architect, first you go out with an RFQ, which stands for a request for qualifications. Once you get all the architects that apply for to hopefully get the job, then we look at an RFP, which is a request for proposal. You narrow down to 3 architect groups, you interview them. The state gives us a range, a budget figure for architects. You open up the first envelope of your first choice. If they're within the budget, you can use that architect. If they're not, you can try to negotiate, or you have to go to the second. That's the process. That usually takes about 6 weeks to sometimes 10 weeks to do. So there is, slight lag time. We can't rush it unless they say you guys can go ahead and use that same architect that you had in the past. The other issue is we don't know if that architect wants to do the job, so we haven't approached them yet. So we've got some logistical things that we have to go forward on first, starting with the Mercer, then we'll move forward to see what they want to do for the architects. Today, I was informed that since I haven't closed out satellite school yet because of warranty issues, there's still a significant amount of money in the satellite budget. What we're going to try to do is negotiate. They gave us $9 million to get started to do the design. Now that $9 million, along with the $150 million, isn't going to come due until July 1. But since I have money in the satellite budget, we're going to try to negotiate to see if we can move forward with design before July 1. That'll give us a couple months head start on the whole process. So.
Just a couple of things real quick, Chair Jellicoe, if I may.
Please.
I think we would all agree that a new high school is something that our whole community would benefit. And one of the things that I've seen over many years as a student at Rock Springs High School, as a teacher at Rock Springs High School, all those things would be if we could have graduation indoors. I've heard that for years, and I've lived it with you for years. So things like that, think about that when we have those community meetings. We really do welcome any idea that you have for that. As you know, schools are funded by the state. The extra enhancements, larger gyms, the pools, things like that, tennis courts that Dan was referring to, those have to come from other funding sources. But the school itself is funding from the state. It's not an increase to anything that all of you would have. Enhancements come from other funding sources, such as it could be funded, some of it from the Recreation Board. But I also think that's really important to say a couple things about the Rec Board. The Rec Board is its own board, like the school board is its own board. And a school board cannot commit a rec board to how they use their money. So there's a separate rec board and people that serve on that board that would make those decisions for that. But that would be a perfect example where some of the enhancement funding may come from if that was the pleasure of that board. That's a question we've been asked a lot. Chair Jellicoe.
So I'd like to close this discussion by taking this opportunity to thank everyone, students, staff, administration, parents, community members, anyone that has reached out over the last 10 years to legislators to let them know the importance of this. And I mean not only our local legislators, but statewide legislators, because we had to have a majority of all of them to get this into the budget. So I want to extend my thanks, the thanks of this board, because the light is at the end of the tunnel. It may be a long tunnel, but the light is there. The funding is now there, and that's a lot further along than we were at the beginning of the session. So thank you to each and every one of you that traveled to Cheyenne, that visited with legislators, that sent them an email, that sent them a text, that saw them in the grocery store and visited with them there. All of you contributed to this moment. Thank you very much.
Chair Jellicoe.
Mr.
Sorry,
Wright.
just real quick, one point of clarification. Superintendent McGovern, Mr. Celeroli, I just want to make it very clear. We're not saying a swimming pool and a tennis court can't happen, because I have heard that. We're saying they can happen. They just have to come from a different funding source. So what we choose to do, or what those funding sources choose to fund, can still be a part of the high school. Those things are not off the table.
That's correct.
Thanks. And also, for all those that reached out to legislators and of this whole process, I'd just offer out to reach back out and say thank you. I think often we ask and ask and ask. Superintendent McGovern, Mr. Celeroli, you guys have put a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears into this effort, and the legislators as well. They really fought a pretty hard fight, I think. So take 30 more seconds, reach back out and say thanks.
Thank you. Are we anything further?
One final comment. Now is the time. We've had a lot of people approach us about, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? And some bigger ideas. Those are perfect. The ideas don't hurt anything at all. So now is the time to start thinking about what would we like that to be. And then we back map that and then see what we can do to make that be a reality. But there's a lot of great ideas that people have already approached us about that they would like to see, especially here on this side of the state. And I think that's exciting. And so all ideas are great at this point. It doesn't hurt anything at all. So we welcome them.
Doesn't hurt to dream. Thank you. Thank you. We'll now proceed with recognition.
It's just automatic. You guys know to come down now. Invite you down. Okay, our first student to recognize tonight is JC Dufford, is our student representative from Parson Eden High School. We would like to thank JC for joining the Board of Trustees this evening and sharing a fresh student perspective. JC's attendance sends a positive message to all the student body to become involved in respectful ways. Our students are capable of great things. Civic engagement is one of those things. Thank you, JC. Ms. Rosanico, if you could come up for a picture, please. The hiring process for the next superintendent of schools required the efforts and dedication of many. We would like to thank the following individuals. Kelly Murray. As the board and superintendent secretary, Kelly helped with the logistics and communication necessary to interview candidates in a period of a week, facilitate the staff forums, as well as everything else that was asked of her. All together, I think would be, yeah, because I have a few more to thank. Okay, Debbie Veras, who drove each of the finalists to either Farson or Wamsutter as the board attempted to finalize our candidates with our outlying schools. Bernadette Kraft, who assisted with all 4 interview days in showcasing our Rock Springs schools and our community of Rock Springs. Sorry, Bernadette, I'm so sorry. Bernadette, I'm so sorry. Dr. Bernadette Kraft, yes? Bernadine. Gosh dang it, I'm so sorry. Bernadine, I'm sorry. You should. Next is Jody Gardner for facilitating and the administrator luncheon and forums. Mayor Max Mickelson for his assistance in leading the community forums. He's here. George Lemich for his solid legal counsel, Zach Gunyon, whose expertise in our use of technology made the forums available to all who wished and observed to participate the process virtually. Okay. Thank you all. Now picture time.
You guys scooch in, like, intermingle, like, come out and go down there and down there. Okay, guys, ready? 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, guys.
Math counts as an opportunity for our students to demonstrate a high level of mathematical skills and the teachers who coach and prepare them for these events. We would like to thank Dave Young from Tata Chemicals. Tata paid for the registration fees and lunches for all Sweetwater 1 students that participated. This is going to be a big group of students, which is pretty awesome. So we'll take it all, the picture all at the end. Farson Eden students include Mason Bear, Strider Abbott, Marilyn Weaver, Braden Long, Autumn Madsen, and Amy Robb. The Pronghorns are coached by Miss Veronica Ray. Oh dear, yay. Miss Rosanica, if you'd like to come up for a picture. Eastside 6th grade students include Uriah Morgan, Aliyah Edinger, Darian Valverde Navarro, Sam Parker, Robert Johnson. Oh, they are. That's okay. That's okay. And then you just go shake each one of them down and just stay up there for a minute, okay? It's okay. Okay.
You're in this list.
Okay.
Just stand right there.
Zai Wyatt Poiney, Ocean Duckowitz, Jackson Smith, Melody Puller,
Melody. Thanks, Melody. Congratulations. Mhm. You got this one.
Richard Cherney, Camden Dahlberg, Caleb Berry, Carly Lewis, Cameron Bowles,
Congratulations.
awesome, thank you. Peyton Jones, Avery Gann, and John Thompson. The Eagles are coached by Miss Tanya Vessels and Mr. Jack Herman and Miss Anna Johnston. Miss Searle and Dr. Wells, if you'd like to come up and join for the picture in a bit. Thank you. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Okay, our Pilot Butte students. Oops, sorry.
You guys are getting a picture?
All together. We're going to do all the math counts. Yep, it's going to be a big picture. Pilot Butte sixth grade students. Jenica Floyd. Lindsay Golden. Kaylee Parker. James and, oh, okay, here she comes. Kaylee Parker.
Haley. James Anderson.
Where are we at here? James Anderson, Yaslin Vicencio Delgado, Lila Cross, Cooper Fagley, Nixon Jarvie, Cash Meduna, Arian Acosta, Julieta Alvey. The Wildcats are coached by Mr. Michael Baker and Mr. Cody Sirk. And then Mr. Marcy and Miss Otter, if you want to come up also. Okay. And our last school in the math counts is Rock Springs Junior High, with the top 12 competitors in the chapter competition for the Southwest region include Hunter Alton, Aurora Baker, Kinley Busenbark, Emma Calvey, Blake Davies, Noah George, Chris Hayes, Brooklyn Jackson Dunn, Kenneth Knox Zanetti, Gregory Lordenson. Congratulations. Hazel Willer and Madison Willie. Mason, I'm so sorry, Mason Willie. Okay. This team placed first in our chapter competition for the Southwest region, where Gregory Lordenson placed top individual overall in our A team. Our A team won first place for the team round. The Jaguars earned the opportunity to compete in the upcoming state competition in Laramie this March 23rd. The team who will be attending are as follows: Gregory Lordenson, Emma Calvey, Hunter Alton, and Hazel Willer. These Jaguars are coached by Matt Walter and Miss Miranda Riggs. That's our math counts group, if you're ready for a picture. Oh, Mr. Urban, Mr. Woodward, Mr. Lott, come on up. Oh, so close.
Mathletes. Mathletes.
Okay, guys, ready? 1, 2, 3, cheese. One more. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you, guys.
Okay. A medical emergency occurred in Miss Caroline Smallstick's social studies class at Rock Springs Junior High School. Miss Smallstick was with a student in need and was unable to adequately evacuate the rest of her class and called a nurse and an administrator to her classroom. Eighth grader Emiliano Garcia realized this and sprang into action. Emiliano took the initiative to quickly and effectively get the other students out of the room and into the neighboring class. After he got everyone out, he immediately ran to the office and got help within seconds. Without his ability to recognize an emergency, instantaneously know what he needed to be done, and in a stressful situation, we would not have been able to provide medical attention for a student so quickly. Emiliano's initiative and leadership are a testament to his character. Ms. Smallstick stated, "I am beyond proud to see those qualities in him, and I am thankful that I can trust and rely on him to take care of business in situations like that." We'd like to recognize and celebrate Emiliano for his responsibility and ability to take action. Mr. Urban, Mr. Woodward, Mr. Lott, if you could come up. And Mrs. Smallstick.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
The Pilot View staff would like to recognize Miss Allison Toulson. The vision of Pilot View is to rise above, and Allison models what rising above looks like. She shares a lot of her time at the school working with small groups of students. She is kind and a welcome face to students and staff. Thank you, Allison. Mr. Marcy and Miss Otter, if you'd like to come up, please.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2. Thank you.
This evening, we continue with the new tradition of honoring employees as they reach milestones with their service within Sweetwater Number 1. Tonight, we would like to recognize those employees that have completed 25 years of current service. Many of our staff have served in various schools or departments over the years, so this evening, we would mention their current role, and the employees will be called up by their school or department with their administrators or directors. Thank you to the following employees: Kira Batolo, Print Shop Manager. And then Miss Harvey and Mr. Duncan, if you'd like to come up. Scott Duncan, Chief Financial Officer. And Mrs. McGovern is already up there. Gretchen Graham, resource teacher at Eastside Elementary. Miss Searle. And Dr. Wells. I was like, where did they go? Melissa Havishold, third grade teacher at North Park. Rick Mitchelson, business at Rock Springs High School. He did let us know that he's not able to be here tonight. Nathan Wiest, counselor, Black Butte High School. We would like to recognize one employee that will be retiring on April 1st, that we will miss the May retirement celebration. Linda Carter is our Director of Grants and Federal Programs. We would like to thank Linda for her 5 years of service to Sweetwater One staff and students. Best wishes in your retirement, Linda. That concludes our recognition for this evening.
Junior high principal. East side. Barb.
Ms. Murray, if you would proceed with the roll call, please.
Mrs. Cochran? Here. Mrs. Thompson? Here. Mrs. Summers? Here. Mrs. Schumacher? Here. Mrs. Wood? Here. Mr. Wright? Here. Chair Jellicoe?
Present, we do have a quorum. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, including the addendum items.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. I now entertain a motion to suspend the board meeting and open the public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Wood. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Cochran. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. We are now in the public hearing. Please.
Good evening, Chair Jellicoe, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent McGovern. The purpose of the public hearing tonight is to review budget amendments before the board. Budget resolutions encompass the following grants. Our ARP HCY1 for the purpose of reclassifying funds to adjust for supplies. The Y-Bill Literacy Grant to reclassify funds to adjust budget for salaries, benefits, and supplies. For the ARP High Dosage Intervention Grant, which is to, we received a new COVID grant award, and so we are adding it to our budget. The ARP ESSER 3 grant is to correct the September 11th resolution. Function codes were duplicated on that resolution and therefore put on multiple times, and so we needed to correct that. As with every budget resolution, you will also see an updated spreadsheet for our COVID ESSER grants. It's at the bottom. Zach, there. Which will give the board, the public, it relates what we've been spending funds for the grants on. And this will also include the new grant for the high interventions that we need to be doing. So are there any questions?
Any questions? Doesn't look like it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, public comment for public hearing. We do have a written public comment that has been attached to the agenda. Is there any in-person public comment for the public hearing? Any in-person public comment for the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll move to close the public hearing and reconvene the board meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Schumacher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. We are now back in the regular meeting. Superintendent reports. The first one is grants and federal programs update. Okay.
Good evening, Chair Jellicoe, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent McGovern. Tonight, I am going to take a moment to share some information about the grants that Sweetwater Number 1 receives. Part of the purpose of this is for federal fund requirements in which we are to hold constituency meetings. The constituency meetings allow people to hear about the grants, see how we are using the funds, and also allow input from the constituency groups related to what they see the funds might be used for, et cetera. So as part of the constituency meeting requirement, I'm presenting to the board tonight a grant update. To begin with, and Zach, can you go ahead and go to the next slide? Thank you. All the grants that we apply for, whether they're allocated funds or where we apply for the funds through a competitive process, we write the grants related to the district's strategic plan and goals. Therefore, what you see is what we have been using for the past years for writing the grants. As we are beginning to look at a new strategic plan and goals, please note that as the grants are written this year, it will take into consideration where we are currently at with the school, the strategic plan, and where the direction that the school board community want the strategic plan to go. Please be aware, go ahead and move to federal, state, and local funding sources. One of the important things within our school district is that we utilize these funds to leverage both our state funding sources from the general fund area, special education funds, to maximize what we can do for students. A couple of things, I'm not going to read the slides to you. You guys can read the slides and see what fall underneath each of those areas. But I do want to point out that the two pictures that are represented here actually show and depict ways in which the school district is currently maximizing use of funds. If you look on the top right-hand side, what you will see is a group of junior high students working at Overland Daycare through their work with their interventionist teacher. They are actually reading to the students. These students are working on building their reading skills, as well as helping the younger students do their reading. The grants that have helped with this particular program have included our ARP grants, our YBuilt grant, and our BOCES grants. The bottom picture depicts what is called our Little Skills program, which is offered at Pilot Butte and Eastside through the high school CTE teachers. They are building students to come into their CTE programs, and it is offered not only to students but parents as well. So what you see is involvement from parents in a program that is supported by 21st Century, Perkins Grant, and ARP Extended Day. With all federal and most of the state funding grants, there is a a necessary component of making sure that we are involving family and providing family engagement opportunities, and this is one. If you'll move to the next slide, Zach. For the next two slides, what you will see is the total amount of grant opportunities that we have been given. This first slide that you see here is primarily what I call our allocation grants. These include what we get from what are considered our consolidated grants, which you'll be hearing a little bit more of tonight. As you can see, we usually get between about a $3.6 million and we have received since 2022, 3.2 million. We do tend to see some increases with these grants based on our free and reduced lunch counts and our poverty rate within the community. The next slide depicts what I call our multi-year. Some of these are non-competitive grants. Some of them are competitive grant opportunities as well. These 3 years have included all the funds that we have received from the federal level for what are called the ESSER grants or the COVID grants. And as you can see, we have received close to over $30 million in grant funds with competitive grants and the ESSER grants. To do a short review of our consolidated grants, which are primarily grants that are provided from federal funds through state, and they are considered our allocated fund sources. We have Title I, and Zach, you can move to the next slide. The Title I funds are used for preschool teachers and preschool, both paraprofessionals and certified teachers, instructional supplies, professional development, family engagement, and we do support some of our English learner support through here, as well as we must set aside funds to provide for our private and home schools per federal requirements. We also include some neglected and delinquent funds as well. In this picture below, in these two pictures, you see a Title I teacher working with students on both reading and writing, which are primarily the focuses with our K-3 buildings. Title I funds are designated for K-3 buildings within the district, which include Desert View, North Park, Stagecoach, and Walnut. And also Desert School qualifies as a Title I school, and we fund them for a K-6 grades. If you'll move to the next slide. Another consolidated grant that we receive is considered Title I-D, neglected and delinquent. Within this grant, we must work with 2 institutions within Sweetwater County, one being Sweetwater Detention Center and one being the Sweetwater Youth Home. Funds are also used within our schools to help students who are at risk of dropping out or not graduating. Some of the funds from this grant are actually helping to support some of the students that have babies or children that are going to the Overland Daycare Center. And so what we use some of those funds for is to pay for their costs to attend that daycare center so that the students continue meeting their graduation requirements. This does not hold not only for the Overland Daycare, but any student that might have a student or a child in another daycare center, but these funds are used to help with that graduation. It also helps fund a person or at-risk coordinator as well. If you move on to the next slide, our Title II funds are really our funds that we use to help support the district in professional development activities. Most of these activities can include travel for gaining information rejuvenating teachers and having them learn new skills that they will bring back into school. The other thing that we use these funds for is to support our summer academies, fall academies, or some of the work that we do on Friday. The funds are also used to staff some of the district support people, which include that work with the teachers on professional development. Next slide, please. Additional funds that we receive from our consolidated grant are Title III funds, which go towards our English language acquisition. A majority of these funds are actually used for our EL family engagement person. This person in the district works with families and students to provide training, information, and support as they blend into our school system. Go ahead and Title IV is considered student support and academic enrichment. There are 3 basic goals which are listed here. One is general, kind of a well-rounded. Another one is to ensure safe health and safety for students. The other is for technology. We have used title funds this year to support the Upbeat survey that the board conducts on a yearly basis. We have purchased our kits that we have used for our blood-based learning. It also includes a counselor that we have at the junior high that we support, as well as we have been supporting our virtual education program from the district with these funds, and our academic behavior person. Another program that is not necessarily considered part of our consolidated grant that we do receive funds through is our Perkins 5. And these funds, as you can see in the graph, we have been increasing the amount of funds that we've been receiving from the state. Some of that is actually based on, the funding is based on our free and reduced count, especially at the high school. And so what we've been seeing is the efforts that the school has been doing in obtaining those forms and approvals for those forms for free and reduced. If you turn to the next slide, these funds can support 5th through 12th grade. What you see depicted on this slide, and sometimes we don't always see this, is some of the things that are being done at the junior high program in the industrial arts area. Another grant that we receive funds for is considered the 21st century. And this is really more of a program that is designed to support what I consider extended day programs before and after school, and summer programs across our school district. We receive these funds for specific buildings. They are not allocated to all buildings, and currently we are using them for the Rock Springs Junior High, East Side, North Park, Desert View. For some odd reason, I think I'm missing one, but yeah. Walnut. I was going Stagecoast or Sage. No, Walnut. The grant includes funding to have people do after-school activities and those supplies. The next grant that helps support the district is called the School Improvement Grant. This grant is granted through the state for those schools that are actually showing in need of improvement through our WAEA report. And currently we, Walnut, Eastside, and Desert View have been receiving additional funds this year to support their students on reaching their school improvement goals to help students attain proficiency within the reading and writing and math areas. One of the last grants that I like to talk about is our local grant that is supported through Sweetwater's BOCES. And I know that the board has 2 people that serve on the BOCES board, and I would like to thank the BOCES board for the support that they provide Sweetwater School District Number 1. The grants this year have been supporting books for the Satellite School and Black Butte High School. They also support our CTE program in addition to our Perkins funds for supplies, programs. We also purchase our certificates that students can obtain, as well as our CTSO programs for students to go to state. We have separate grants that support the driver's education program, advanced aquatics program, and our giving backpack program. And finally, there are 3 areas that I'd like to finalize this conversation on. The district receives the opportunity to write for many competitive grants. These are a few of the grants that we have received in the past 3 years. Knowing that they're competitive and that we don't always receive all the receive every competitive grant we get, just knowing that we have received additional funds to help the district is important to remember as we take a look at where the grant programs are going for the next couple of years. The SAMHSA grant, which is a conversation on the next slide, and the TIS grant have been awarded to the district to provide help and support for behavior and mental health programs. And we actually help students with some counseling services within the buildings through video, through supporting professional staff across the state, as well as we provide programs for the teachers and principals related to the mental health awareness. This is actually a 5-year grant, and as you can see, it is over the next, we got it in 2021 and 2023. And so we will have those funds available to the district for the next couple of years. The next slide shows the grants that we have received for COVID. These have been limited funds, and the district has been using them over the last 3 years to enhance things that have gone on in within the districts. Some of them being we've upgraded our technology. We have upgraded some of the construction pieces for better air circulation, as well as cleaning. And we have used these grants to support people in intervention, EL, and the funds are also being used for virtual school. And these are a few of the things that I'm mentioning, but you can see more on that spreadsheet of what we have used those grant funds for. It is important to note that about $24 million has come in from the federal government over the past 4 years to enhance what we're doing, to help build our programs for what we're doing. But at the end of September, these funds are going away. So the programs and the things that we have seen help build this school district were intended to help do that, not to sustain it for a long time. But I know that there are pieces within here that we would like to have sustained. So as we move forward in looking at what the future holds and ways to build out or maintain some of the pieces that we have seen work here, that is one of the goals as a district that I hope to see move forward. Again, this is part of a constituency presentation. We will be doing constituency meetings on March 26th and 27th. March 26th is actually a Spanish version, and March 27th is an English version. The Spanish version will be done during the day, and the English version will be done in the evening. I welcome any comments, any ideas related to how we are using funds within the district, and any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Thompson?
I just have a question. I believe it's slide 9, title ID, neglected and delinquent. On the graph, the chart shows that there's a significant decrease in funding for the 2023 and 2024 school year rather. And I was just wondering if you have any idea why that is such a decrease in funding.
The funding for the Title I-D funds actually comes from the number of students that are reported from the Sweetwater Detention Center and the Sweetwater Youth Home. So depending on how many students have come in through there, and we do it in an October count. So all of October, we take account of students that are coming in and out of those 2 institutions, and they can come in, go out, come in and go out multiple times. And so it depends on how many are coming into those institutions and also what the institutions are saying they're going to take.
Any further questions? When it comes to the COVID grants that are expiring in September, are we on track to expend all of those monies that we've received?
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
So they're
And we have
they're
been
dedicated
too.
monies.
Chair Jellicoe, yes, we have.
Okay.
Some of them have been, what I want to say, sunsetted or ended prior to. So like our CARES grant, our ESSER 2 grants have all sunsetted. We are finishing up with our ARC grants or our ESSER 3 grants between now and September. And so we will be using and expending all those funds. We have spending plans in place for those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further comments or questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, item 8B is beyond textbooks. Ms. Garner.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Jellicoe, trustees, Superintendent McGovern. Zach, will you bring my presentation up, please? Thank you. And if you'll advance to the first slide. So as I shared a little last meeting, the State School Board of Education started careful consideration, and with support from members of the Standards Review Committee and input from districts and the public at large, they proposed a revision of state standards in math, science, computer science, physical education, health and safety, and fine and performing arts. On this graph, you can see that there are content standards those are the white boxes there, and they are the standards that are taught but not assessed yet. And the content and performance standards, those are the gray boxes. Those are the ones that are taught and assessed. So just in case you wanted to know the difference between content and performance and just content. Okay. In October of 2022, the state board passed a resolution to move forward with reducing the standards load and have educator committees identify a more focused set of standards. Before convening the audit committee, the state board surveyed the districts on locally prioritized math and science standards. At the same time, the Math and Science Standards Review Committee they had members who were surveyed on standards as they selected state state-selected priority standards. The state has now done all of the prioritization of standards, and we will adhere to those guidelines as soon as they have finalized these decisions. Next slide. Thank you, Zach. On Thursday, February 29th, the WDE Standards and Assessments team held a virtual meeting to share updates and the following timeline. They assured that no edits were made to the text of standards or the numbering system, that the currently adopted standards and codes will remain as they were to reduce the need to change those in district systems already in place. That means if they were numbered 1.1.06 and then 1.1.07, but they're going to do away with one of those, then it won't show, it will still keep the same number even if there's one missing. So that way they can remain consistent. We don't have to renumber everything. It gets confusing. They also shared that as a result of the standards audit, there will be a 61% reduction in K through 12 science standards, 64% in K through 12 math standards, 76% reduction in computer science standards, 52% in physical education, 57% in health, and 89% reduction in fine and performing arts. The only notable addition that they shared in this meeting was that to the health standards, they will now include suicide prevention in junior high and high school standards. As a reminder, the Wyoming Department of Education is still seeking public feedback through an online survey until March 21st. So you can go to the WDE website, click on accountability and over on the standards, and then it will take you to a link that has the feedback form. So if anyone is interested, until March 21st, you can still give feedback on the proposed changes of those standards. Next slide, Zach. In this meeting, the timeline, this timeline was shared. Currently, as you see, until March 21st, the standards are out for feedback. In April, the committee will examine the feedback and either vote to move forward or return the proposed changes back to the subject area committees. If they move forward, the committee will examine the feedback. After moving forward, then they will, after moving forward, possibly after the April decision-making review, the governor will have 75 days to either sign or return for feedback and changes. Slide 5. Thank you, Zach. The goal is then to have the standards ready for the fall of 2024 state committee work, which will involve the creation of new blueprints, time to allow districts to update common assessments, and update district assessment systems. The state board's plan is for full implementation to be in the 25-26 school year. However, the YTOP assessment changes may not be updated until a year or two more after this. Slide 6. So as I shared last time, so we're in a dilemma here. We are in a precarious place as far as district resource adoptions go. Our long-range plan shows that we are due to adopt 2 of the most critically important resource adoptions this year and next, math and ELA. Meanwhile, the standards review is taking place and not yet finalized. Knowing this, while I carefully was watching the actions of the state standards review, I continued to research what options we would have moving forward this year, while I also was carefully examining board policy IIA on instructional materials and selection and adoption. In January, I reached out to Beyond Textbooks, a product that I've used extensively to support teaching and learning in a struggling district. This tool provides access to instructional calendars, materials, curriculum documents, and vetted resources. It will also provide much needed training in leadership rollout and expectations for PLCs, assessments, and reteach and enrich. As a reminder, this product is, as I shared before, this product is created by a district in southern Arizona who began as a failing district, and through the use of a strong framework as well as an effective district curriculum, instruction, assessment, and intervention processes and procedures, they became the #1 district in the state. They began providing this resource to other districts in the state as well as 10 other states. Beyond Textbooks presented to the district cabinet on January 9th. After hearing what this had to offer, the cabinet asked me to move forward with a presentation to district leadership, to our district leadership team. On January 24th, the team of district leaders listened to this presentation, and 29 out of 30 voted to move this forward, per policy IIA, to a committee of teachers, parents, and administrators. Each school principal selected a team of 2 to 6 members, representing a variety of grade levels and subject areas from their buildings, to attend this important presentation. I also invited the Community Curriculum Council, the CCC, to attend, as they are a representative group of district personnel and community members who advise decisions pertaining to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. This presentation was held on February 20th. Slide 7 there, Zach. In the feedback from the committee present in this presentation, highlights are noted here from the attendees. These were their comments, their words that I had a survey and they filled it out at the end. You may notice that creativity, that it allows for teacher creativity. They are not required to submit lessons that they do that they know are effective lessons. They don't have to submit these to be on textbooks. They get the creativity and the autonomy to teach with what they choose. But then the assessments are in place to then compare the data in their PLC and see what worked and what didn't when it comes to moving to proficiency. Slide 8, there's that. In guidelines set forth in policy IIA, I asked the committee this question, and then it's the top graph on the right. Does this instructional material strongly support the teaching of and align to the district's K through 12 curriculum maps and Wyoming content and performance standards? The results are noted on the top graph of the attendees who submitted a survey. Responses noted to the impact, to the question that I posed, on the impact that this could have on student achievement, as well as benefits and advantages for the district. These are some comments. It helps teachers teach the standards, not the textbooks. Consistency throughout the district. Teachers will have a clear plan and path to follow and guide instruction, much like a textbook, yet ensure that all standards are addressed. This would give teachers, specifically new teachers, more support in being able to understand their standards and give lessons that have been proven to increase student learning. The work of unpacking the standards and creating common assessments has been done. Much of the heavy work and unpacking of the standards has been completed, and it will allow teachers to stay in the classroom. Let's see. I believe that, here's another comment. I believe that this resource will streamline assessment and planning and support enrichment and intervention for all students. Responses for deficits and disadvantages, another question that I posed to them. One comment was, teachers who struggle with lesson planning and selecting materials will continue to instruct in their comfort zone instead of taking time to improve with what they already know, because it's not given to them tied up in a bow with everything already done. It will take lots of pre-planning from teachers to make sure that they have the materials needed instead of picking and choosing from the math workbooks we have. This could increase the district cost of printing. And interestingly, one parent noted this: the adoption process of the program may be the shortfall of the success for the program. We have a very strong-minded culture in our community, generally speaking. Engaging the users and selling it to them is key to the success of a smooth and positive adoption process. School district leadership and BT representatives are a great path in pitching in and selling the advantages of the resource. But I feel skepticism and the idea of change will pose high resistance against BT until results are proven in the following school year. Sorry, let me take a drink. Lastly, I asked the committee this question. After listening to this presentation, would you support Beyond Textbooks as a curriculum resource for the 24-25 school year? That's the bottom graph there. 83.7% said yes, 0% said no, 16.3% said they would need more information to make a vote. So tonight, I would ask that you support my request for the authorization to move forward with this important decision. As you've heard me state before, this is not a request that I take lightly. Trust me. Sorry. Trust me when I tell you that I have lost lots of sleep over the minimally improved student achievement data over the last 3 years as your chief academic officer. It would have been easy to do the same old thing we've always done. Order some samples, bright new toys, and do it in the order that it's always been done. However, I believe that doing something different is what is in the best interest of this district right now. If you get permission to move forward this evening, we will provide the district training in April so that teachers are ready for fall. We will also offer additional opportunities for summer academies. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Questions or comments?
Chair Jellicoe,
Mr. Wright?
Ms. Garner, if you're able to elaborate, I noticed on one slide you mentioned this being a fiscally responsible choice.
Yes.
Can you shed any additional light on that?
Yes, I sure will. So this decision, so a math adoption is about $1 million, and an ELA adoption is about $3 million. And we could move forward and do that. But at this time, we know that there's a pending budget shortfall ahead of us. I say we do this for a year and we see where we are in our budget shortfall. We know that based on the way that the state calculates our ADM, Mr. Duncan has shared many times that what we have ahead of us on the 3-year rolling average, we know that we have $1 million shortfall coming up and $4 million the year after that. This is a financial decision that I'm not calling it a financial decision because we're also in a precarious place. I don't want to waste money on resources that people will not use. And so we're in a place where I think that this could, in a year, we're going to look at it, we're going to see where we're at, we're going to talk about it, and then we can make decisions moving forward for the next year because we know that we have that money, set aside. Mr. Duncan plans, he meets with me every year that I've been here and makes sure that I, have the money for any adoption that's coming up. But it is a fiscally responsible decision. And I did not say that. That was something from the committee that attended the presentation.
Thanks for that clarification. I also think you addressed this already, but just to reiterate, because we've received some comments on this. So Beyond Textbooks would be a resource?
It is a resource, yes.
Do you maybe want to expound on that at all?
Sure. There's some confusion. When I came in, of course, I came from a state where we didn't adopt materials on a regular basis. And so there's a lot of confusion when it comes to the curriculum and the resource. And so often people say to me, well, I need a math curriculum textbook. Our textbook is not our curriculum. Our curriculum is our list of standards as governed by the state. Our resources are the tools we use to teach that effectively.
Thanks.
Mhm.
And then the last question, I don't know if you're able to speak to this or not, but from what I understand and what I've read, it's essentially a platform for work to be shared. Is there any contingencies or anything to the intellectual property side of things?
Yeah, I did. I read that as well. So I did clarify just to make sure with the company, anything that we do share, then, that you submit it to them. They then vet it in their system. And if it gets posted to their website, then it is their property at that point. There's no requirement to post anything. So teachers never have to submit their activity, their lesson. They never have to do that if they don't want to. That is for someone who says, man, this is a fantastic lesson. I wonder if Beyond Textbooks would like this. And they submit it, and then often they get, they share. I mean, those are like highlight lessons from all around, all of the district partners that are all over the nation, essentially. I remember as a principal, often Beyond Textbooks would offer a contest where they would say, hey, we're taking, submissions, this month or whatever, and, we will give out 5 $50 Amazon cards to anyone, so they have like a random drawing and teachers win prizes. And so, but it's totally optional. It is not required. It just adds a little bit of the fun. So that is not a true statement. And if a district did that, I did, speak to the guy that runs that to make sure today when I read that on public comment, and he said that some districts mandate what the way that they roll that out. And so, a district may have decided that any lesson being taught, then they had to submit it. But we get to create our own plan for rollout. We are going to, that's the very first training. It's a principal training with a few leaders from each building. The principals will pick their team, their rollout team. And with that whole team, that'll be our district team. And they will create our whole plan for a rollout. If we decide, we don't want to use social studies. Social studies is a big one, right? Because we know they don't have Wyoming in Southern Arizona, Wyoming curriculum. We can customize our own curriculum maps. So we get to make our own custom ones that will roll out right on the calendar if that's what we decide to do. The whole committee together, the leadership 101, that's what we will do. We'll decide how we're going to roll this out. And we want it to be the most effective for us. That's what we want. We're not buying it just to, throw away or not use. We want it to be effective. We want it to turn student achievement. And we also want it to fill the gaps while we're trying to figure out what the standards are really going to be moving forward.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
I apologize for my emotional piece. This is a stressful job, okay? So, any other questions?
Further
Chair
questions or
Jellicoe,
comments?
may
Mrs. Schumacher.
Can you give us a little more information about the committee that you used as far as like, were there representatives from every single building?
Every
Like, where
single
did it come-
building.
Okay.
Every single building, Overland, I don't think Overland, no. Oh, okay, there were. Yeah, every single building, every principal, I asked the principals, you pick your team. You can pick as many as we can, find subs for. And so every building brought anywhere from 2 to 6, kind of just depended on the size of the building. And so maybe even 7 from the high school, I can't remember. And so they picked, because this wasn't just a decision of one subject area, this is a multiple subject area decision, because this is going to be math, ELA, science, as well as social studies and writing. So all of that will come with this program. All of the curriculum maps, everything will be in place for all of those subject areas. And that's where we didn't make it just one subject area. We wanted representation, and I let the principals pick. I had nothing to do with that. And then I invited parents, just random parents that, I'm like, okay, I need a parent. And people told me parent names, and that's who was invited. So, and then the administrators came. And the administrators did not fill out the survey on this particular day because they had already voted at the leadership meeting. So aside from the people who were in attendance that day, the administrators had voted on a previous day, so they were not on that survey or on the graph.
So when would it have the teachers and staff been notified of the idea of this change occurring?
Only here. Well, no, so any representative could go back. They gave them a login to share with their PLCs. And so every representative took that information back and shared the login. So, you know, it depended on their representatives and their principals and how, if they shared it or not. But I have not rolled anything out yet because I've been waiting for your approval before I share anything.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments?
I'm going to ask one more, Chair Jellicoe.
Mr. Wright?
Ms. Garner, would you, so you mentioned the failing district in Arizona,
Mhm.
and then they turned around to be the #1 district in the state.
Mhm.
Obviously, I assume it has something to do with beyond textbooks, but
They
Can you-
created, so they created beyond textbooks. So
are they saying their success in turning it around was from this tool?
it was solely from building their own framework that encompassed all of the important pieces of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And so that's how they turned this all around. And, you know, that was some of the feedback that we heard from administrators when we shared this. You know, this district's been really trying to pull off an MTSS system, an intervention system. We, you know, just can't seem to get it successfully off the ground. They've tried to pull off effective PLCs. They've brought in Solution Tree, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with Solution Tree. Some are effective, some are not. There are all these little pieces that this kind of builds into the work as well. And so all of this comes with professional development in all of those areas, as well as supporting our principals in the rollout of how that should look in their buildings. So this is it's going to put all the pieces together. Sorry, Zach, I bumped the microphone. So it's going to put all the pieces together for us and hopefully really improve student achievement. That's the ultimate goal, of course. So.
Thanks.
Further questions or comments? So from what you just said a moment ago, it doesn't cover all the content areas. You said
Right.
language, math,
Mhm. Reading,
reading,
math,
writing.
writing, science, social studies.
Okay.
Mhm. And so the other subject areas, we can create custom maps
Okay.
and that
Through-
will,
through it.
with our fine and performing arts, which is perfect for us, right? Because we have our own.
CTE programs.
Mhm. We can create our own.
Okay.
And that's what we'll do. And so as soon as you were to give me permission, we go to work. Because in April, if we teach this professional development, we want as many of our customized maps in place so that teachers can give feedback as they're learning the training, they're clicking on things, they're going to tell us, oh, I want this, or oh, this, we need this. And so all of this is just important to really do so that we can get the training in so teachers can play in it and get full access before the school year's out.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Further comments or questions?
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I apologize for my stress.
Oh. Okay, the next section is communication and correspondence or the public comment. If a member of the public initiates specific complaints and/or charges against an employee in order to protect the employee's rights to privacy and due process, the board will only hear those complaints or charges in closed session. The board encourages concerned individuals to file complaints using the appropriate district complaint procedure and appropriate forms, which can be obtained from the district's website. As per policies B, DDH, and KD, please limit your comments to the board to one time. If your comments have been previously submitted in writing, please refrain from addressing the board a second time. Written comments will be posted to the agenda in the written public comment section below. Written public comments must be received by 1:00 p.m. on the day of the board meeting and will be available for the public and trustees to view, but will not be read aloud at the board meeting. Policies B, DDH, and KD continue to state, questions asked by the public shall, when possible, be answered immediately by the chairman or referred to staff members present for reply. Questions requiring investigation shall be referred to the board or administrative staff for consideration and later response. We do have some written public comments that have been added to the agenda online. Is there any in-person public comment?
Hello, I am Natalie Powell, the co-chair of the parent involvement team at the high school. I'm here to provide our monthly PIT report. At our last PIT meeting, the high school administrators gave us an update on the on-site visit from the WDE representative in regards to the high school's accreditation status. We continue to be invested in ways to help support the high school, making the improvements necessary to be off accreditation support. We also spoke about the accelerated schedule and have received a lot of feedback and some trepidation from parents as the high school moves to this schedule. The concerns for band and choir students were discussed, as were the concern that students who want to enroll in seminary are being limited on what electives they can take. While this works for some students, not all students who enroll in seminary are interested in or want to take a fine or performing arts class. Other questions that continue to arise are students' ability to be enrolled in math classes for both semesters, as well as dual and concurrent classes at Western. We sincerely hope parental feedback and ideas are being taken into consideration, as this is a big shift in the way students are scheduled for classes. The news from the legislature regarding funding for a new high school is exciting, and we thank all those who were part of that effort. We hope the momentum does not stop. We will need continued community support to build a building with the necessary amenities that will continue to support the needs of all of our students. We wanted to note that our next PIT meeting will be on Tuesday, April 2nd, due to Easter Monday. As always, all are welcome and invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Notman. I'm the president of SCA, Sweetwater Education Association, and I'm here to open negotiations.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
As per a change in policy last year, we will wait about 30 days. The WDE 100 has to come in, which actually will outline the finances that we have from the state for the next year. Once we receive that, and Scott and his staff have an opportunity to kind of look through that and see where we are, then we will be scheduling dates. So look for that probably first part of April. Further public comment? Mr. Celeroli.
Madam Chair, members of the board, superintendent, just a real quick note to update you on some of the projects that we're on and project that I believe you guys all received an email from with concerning Desert View.
Mhm.
Okay, first, transportation. A couple months ago, Joe reported that they were getting a smell in there, and we actually had one of the employees claim that they weren't feeling good. We did a what they call an IAQ, indoor air quality check, and while we didn't find anything significant, the report did come out that Joe's area where the offices are, there is no fresh air. They just put regular household type heating and cooling systems in them. And not that that's uncommon, but in that area where it's adjacent to a wash bay and the shops, they really should have the proper system. So I called in a mechanical engineer and we just got back the drawings. And since there is no fresh air in the building, and the engineer suggested that there could be issues with carbon monoxide, and it would be nice to have fresh air being brought into the system. I went and hired a local company to come in, give me prices. We didn't get the price yet, but I really do feel that this is in the best interest of the district and the health of the people that are in there to move forward with this as quickly as possible. And so Vaughn's, I talked to Vaughn's so they can get on this project, and as soon as they can, I don't have the prices yet, but we'll treat this as an emergency situation, get it taken care of. That'll eliminate Joe's issues as far as, bringing in fresh air, and so that we know that we're in some sort of OSHA guidelines. Okay. Next thing is a lot of folks don't realize that we are renovating Westridge. And while we're not doing the extensive renovation that we have done in the past, like to Overland, Westridge is being renovated. We took out the old folding walls and we're putting in solid walls because that way we can hang things on them. We have electrical data ports, things like that. We're pulling off all the old wallpaper. been there since day one from the school, so we're redoing the walls, kind of like what we did with Walnut last year. That project will be done in July. Walnut, we finally have some plans, and we're moving forward on the renovation so that we can have a secure entrance. This was a kind of a topic when we visited the School Facilities Commission because I have not spent all of my security funding. And so almost all that security funding will go towards that secure vestibule. So when that's done, that front entrance will take on a different configuration, but it will have a secure vestibule where people can come in, check in, just like they do currently now at Overland. The layout of Walnut is a little bit different, so we have to kind of change the walls and change the corridors a little bit, but that is in progress now. Most of the demo has been done except for the main brick walls. We'll wait till school is out for that. And all this brings us to Desert View, our last school. Desert View, I've walked through Desert View with Sarah back in November, and that school needs to be, it needs a renovation. That school has not had much work done to it over the years, other than carpeting and some wall issues taken care of. So what I'd like to do in that school is you all have the email, and hopefully we can shut that school down for 1 year, move everybody from that school over to Westridge, if that's okay, and give me a year to do a full renovation. One of the things that Sarah brought up to me was it'd be nice to have in restrooms, kind of like what we have in Overland for the kindergarten kids and pre-K kids. So we're going to look at that, but we're going to take the ceilings down, take those folding walls that really never get, folded in. I've been here 10 years. I've not yet seen one classroom where the walls, everybody's moved the walls. They usually have all kinds of stuff in front of it. So we'll take those walls out, bring the building up to code. That is basically our last building that we have to bring up to code. All of our other buildings are right where they need to be. So we'll change out the fire systems. We're standardizing all the fire systems. The drilling, that noise that you heard earlier, is our electricians working on bringing this building up to a new fire system. So we need to do something. That area is the, it's the less economical, disadvantaged area, and that school needs to reflect that we care about all those kids as much as we do any other kid in this district. And right now it looks like an old school. I'd like to go in, gut it out basically, and make the changes, bring that school up to speed so that it is no different than any of our other schools that we have in this district.
Will that be done within staff, district staff, or will we have to subcontract some of that out?
That's a great question. It'll be kind of a combination. The state does allow me to use contract labor. And in the past, when we did Overland, it was, and I talked to contractors, the contractors actually prefer to work directly under the district rather than work under a general contractor. Even general contractors prefer to work directly. So we act as our own general contractor. A lot of the labor force that we have, we just basically lease the men from them. And then that way they work off of our specifications. They work under me. And so in a sense, a lot of the folks are temporary services. And so in that sense, they are our staff, but I don't have the manpower to actually take our facility staff to put them over there. So it's a combination of yes and no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Any other questions? Thank you for that
All right.
update.
You bet.
Thank
Thank you.
Further public comment? Further public comment?
I brought a hat just to be clear. Chair Jellicoe and Superintendent McGovern, I'm here as a parent. I'm speaking as a parent. I feel like I have more of a voice sometimes as a parent, as I am my own resource. I don't have to get information from anyone else. I've also tried to support as the student, the teacher, and my role as a parent, as well as administration. I believe in accountability and consistency. I've struggled in various ways as a parent while having students in our district, as I have seen my kids struggle and many others, especially once they have entered secondary schools. The beginning of all these school transitions should be very consistent to set expectations for our students and staff as they continue throughout the years and as they maintain the high expectations. It's no secret that I've been asking for a grading policy for years. When I have asked questions about grading in the past, there's been retaliation, I've been yelled at, and it has now made me nervous to address or advocate sometimes for my child or for other children. My student did not receive timely feedback or grades this year. It took one class out of her 9 to cause panic, stress, doubt, and anxiety about school. Being a preteen and a teenager is one of the hardest times in their lives, and there are enough things to cause doubt, anxiety, and stress. Asking for timely feedback on all assignments should never be the cause of those feelings and should be a consistent expectation. She is a student who is very accountable for her learning. I'm aware that all kids are not that way, which is a huge part of my concern. I also believe in the chain of command. We have addressed this at multiple levels. I have asked many times over the years for the expectations of grading and getting timely feedback with grades and assignments. Just to give some insight into some direct statements to speak from personal experiences, I will share a few statements. We went 8 weeks in a 9-week quarter without a grade. A response from an administrator was, I know that this teacher's grading is a challenge, but we are working on that. We have been focusing on core academic classes at this time as we know they are the most important towards graduation. Last I checked, we need a variety of credits to graduate. All classes should matter. When we first switched to the block schedule, I received this response. One teacher replied, last quarter was awful. I know you know all about the direction education is taking with common assessments. When I reflected on the quarter at the end of the quarter, I realized I hadn't even done half of what I normally teach in a quarter. I was so focused on trying to make this assessment work, I didn't do anything else. So I've changed things for second quarter. I'm going back to the things I usually teach and how I teach. Another teacher, I put it in as classwork because I didn't have time. I didn't grade it in time for many corrections. And that makes it slightly less impactful to their grade, but still a large grade. This is an email response to a 3-week project that my student worked diligently on and had things checked off all along the process. My student received a lower grade based on the syllabus as it should have counted for 30%, and it only counted for 20%. My child's grade suffered due to the lack of not grading in a timely manner. I'd also had to email the teacher to get the syllabus information as the teacher had only shared it verbally. As a parent, I'm very nervous about a big change with a new high school schedule among many of the other changes our districts are facing. I think we have some other things to focus on with a big change like that for our staff and students. Our kids need math and language arts daily. I saw a big decrease in the students that I interact with on a daily basis when we shifted from a 7-day schedule to a block schedule and kids didn't have math and arts daily. I've also been the parent of a child who has failed a class because grades were not updated in a timely manner and proper feedback was not given in time to know how to improve. My child this year has experienced a lack of grading, and I can only assume some kids failed as the teacher did not grade things for weeks. And for the first quarter, they only had 5 grades total for the 9-week quarter. And the first grade of the quarter was October 2nd of 2023. The first day of school was August 16th. She had no feedback during that time. I got an attendance note faster than I could get grades in some classes. It also adds frustration for the staff who are staying up to date and doing what is expected of them. We pay for PowerSchool as a district and as a tool to help parents, teachers, and students to be on the same page. And when the information isn't up to date or current, it causes a lot of confusion, issues, and anxiety for all. This needs to be a huge focus. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Further public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the treasurer's reports. Mrs. Summers.
For the general fund treasurer's report, month of February 2024, the beginning balance was $17,529,508.85, plus the revenues received during the month of $12,083,211.59. Interbank transfers in totaled $14,650,000. Interbank transfers in totaled $269,762.95. Less the warrants written during the month of $9,654,082.37, and interbank transfers out totaling $14,650,000. Voided checks totaled $1,735.27 for an ending cash balance of $20,230,136.30. The school lunch program treasurer's report for February of 2024. Beginning balance was $982,191.93. Interest during the month was $2,622.40. Revenue received during the month totaled $82,283.88. The CFP reimbursement totaled $11,147.88. The federal reimbursement totaled $112,615.59, and the FFVP grant reimbursement totaled $4,195.30. For an ending cash balance of $679,940.44. The treasurer's report for the Head Start program, child care food service program for February of 2024. The beginning balance was $98,774.11. Deposits totaled $156,994.95. Warrants cleared during the month totaled $158,299.31, and the ending balance was $97,469.75. That concludes the treasurer's report.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the general fund, school lunch, and Head Start treasurer's reports.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to the warrants.
The warrants, checks number 165888 through 166592 totaled the amount of $5,728,585.20. Net payroll numbers 796323 to 797230, and the totaled the amount of $2,119,935.59. Checks number 3897887, 3898503, 3899541. Transfers from the general fund totaled $7,700,000. Checks number 3897883 and 3906348 totaled $4 million. $4 million. Checks number 3906347, 3909600, 3911004 totaled $1,810,000. And check number 5052, Valley High School Activity Fund, totaled $1,000. That concludes the warrants.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the warrant, district warrants, and the release of those warrants.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Cochran. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Let me go back just a moment. I need to declare a conflict on warrant number 00166-429. Okay, now we'll go on to approval of the and release of the payments. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Board of Education, all matters listed under the consent agenda are matters about which the board has governing policies, implementation of which is delegated to the superintendent. They will be enacted in one motion in the order listed below. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the time the Board of Trustees votes on the motion unless members of the board request specific items be held and discussed separately and/or removed from this section. Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. A, approval of the minutes from the February 12th, 2024 regular meeting. B, approval of the minutes from the February 12th, 2024 executive session. C, approval of the minutes from the February 15th, 2024 special board meeting. D, approval of the minutes from the February 15th, 2024 executive session. E, approval of the minutes from the February 20th, 2024 special board meeting. F, approval of the minutes from the February 20th, 2024 executive session. G, approval of the minutes from the February 21st, 2024 special board meeting. H, approval of the minutes from the February 21st, 2024 executive session. I, approval of the minutes from the February 22nd, 2024 special board meeting. J, approval of the minutes from the February 22nd, 2024 executive session. K, approval of the minutes from the February 26th, 2024 special board meeting. L, approval of the minutes from the February 26th, 2024 executive session. M, approval of the minutes from the March 4th, 2024 special board meeting. N, approval of the minutes from the March 4th, 2024 executive session. O, curriculum, approval of the purchase of Beyond textbooks. P, facilities, approval of bid for paint and interior door replacements at the Central Administration Building. Q, finance, approval of applications for deposit of public funds. R, finance, approval of the resolution to amend the 2023-2024 budget. S, Head Start, approval of the Head Start continuation grant.
Hold.
T, human resources, approval of personnel recommendations. And there are some addendum items, also number 6 and number 7 are addendum items to personnel recommendations. U, students, approval for Eastside, excuse me, approval for Eastside Elementary School students and Pilot Butte Elementary School students to travel to the Teton Science School in Jackson, Wyoming. V, transportation, approval of the grant allocations for the purchase of a propane bus. Okay, so we have, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of, I believe it was S, which was the Head Start. Let me go back just a moment. Okay, with the exception of the Head Start continuation grant. So we're voting on everything but S. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Okay, we'll go to item number S, Head Start, approval of the Head Start continuation grant. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Thompson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Summers. Discussion.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Thompson.
before, I just wanted to point out some information. I know the packet was filled with quite a bit, but there's some startling statistics that I just wanted to make the community aware that our Head Start policy committee did look at prior to approving this. So on page 17, it says, our community assessment shows in Sweetwater County that 20.9% of children under the age of 5 are living in poverty. This is higher than in the entire state of Wyoming and also in the United States. So I just wanted to point that out, that that is something that this community faces every day. On page 19, although there are nearly 3,000 children under the age of 5 in Sweetwater County, the total capacity of preschools, child care centers, and family child care homes licensed by the Wyoming Department of Family Services is less than 1,000. This qualifies Sweetwater County as a child care desert, defined as an area where child care is available to less than 1 out of every 3 children under the age of 5. That's 2,000 kids that we're missing every single year. It's very concerning because these are kids who are coming in and they may not even have any preschool at all. The third one I wanted to point out is on page 20. And I'm going to go into the middle, and it says 80.2% of all Sweetwater County Head Start families has at least one parent with a high school diploma, which is less than the Wyoming average of 90.9. And that's something that the policy committee is trying to work on. We're trying to remove that stigma that if you didn't obtain a high school diploma, it's never too late. We all know how important it is to get a GED or a HiSET if you did not obtain that high school diploma, because it will help you get a better job, which will help you have better pay. So that is another statistic that I wanted to point out, that our policy council felt very strongly on just the challenges that we as a council are facing every day at the Head Start, the daycare, and the preschool center.
Thank you for pointing out those significant situations in Sweetwater County and School District Number 1. Thank you. There is a motion on the floor to approve the Head Start continuation grant. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Item number 13 is the 2024-2029 strategic plan. As we discussed earlier, this is for board information. So Mrs. Garner will be getting us those changes and so forth, and it will be up for approval in the April meeting. So take a look at those. And if you see anything that is not what we discussed, please feel free to contact Mrs. Garner and myself, please. Item number 14. Is the Desert View renovations. Again, this is for board information, as Mr. Celeroli alluded to earlier in the meeting. Any questions or thoughts about that? After being in that building 2 or 3 times in the last couple of years, it really does need some work. It really does. And those students and staff deserve an updated building. So. Item number 15, good of the order. Anyone with good of the order? Superintendent McGovern.
Just very quickly, some positive information. The Make-A-Wish rally was mentioned in the media that between Sweetwater 1 and Sweetwater 2, there was $63,413 that was raised. Rock Springs Sweetwater 1 raised $43,175. What's interesting on that is our employees with the Blue Jean pins, with staff being able to have an option for that for this year, they raised $27,300 in a matter of 3 or 4 days. So thank you to all the staff that is participating in that. And that's wonderful for Sweetwater County.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mrs. Summers.
I just wanted to thank, I know we extended some thank yous to those who participated in the superintendent candidate process. And I wanted to extend a thank you to Mrs. Barbara Rosanico, who is the principal at Farson Eden High School, for all of the work she put in to the 2 candidates who visited Farson Eden. And then I wanted to extend a thank you to Jim Mines with the Farson Eden Advisory Board. He put a lot of work into welcoming the 2 candidates that we saw in Farson and making it so that the community had a chance to visit with those 2 candidates. So I wanted to extend those 2 thank yous to those individuals as well.
Thank you. Further good of the order. Okay, then we'll move on to new business. 16A, board information. policy IGBCA, children and youth in transition or homeless children. That's the current phrase that's being used, children and youth in transition. B is the vacancy notice as of March 11th, 2024. C is the February 2024 Head Start Governing Board and Policy Council monthly report. So those three items are there for your information. Executive session. Okay, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Summers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Schumacher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Okay, motion passes. We are now in executive session for the discussion of legal and personnel matters. I do not anticipate any action upon our return. Entertain a motion to return to the regular meeting.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Schumacher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wood. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved by Mrs. Cochran. Second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Summers. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. We are adjourned.